Go ahead and bring myself back into view here. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are here to talk about creating for video presentations in Prezi Present. For those of you who have not met before, my name is Kim, and I'm one of the training team members here at Prezi. So we're going to be walking through an actual build of a presentation today. So what I'm going to cover today is actually how to get content on screen next to you using the Prezi Present editor. So we're going to talk about both content creation and some key things to keep in mind as you're building your content to appear alongside you. But then also we're going to talk about how to get up and running and get your content actually connected into your Zoom meetings or whatever video conferencing platform you're using, as well as how to record. So before I switch to a screen share, so we can go behind the scenes in the editor, let me show you the content that we'll actually be putting together today. And you're going to see my camera freeze and switch for a second here, so bear with me. There we go. Okay, so we are going to put together a sales demo, if you will, or demo deck for a mock company called Air Travel. And we may not get through the entire build, but that will depend a little bit on the questions that come up and features that you want to explore. So let me just give you kind of a general overview here. I'm just going to right click through the presentation. Okay. So right now, we are obviously at a custom starting point and then bringing ourselves into view to kind of show the big picture overview on the zooming canvas. So I'm going to show you how to do things like that, work with some of the zoom areas and animations, create a custom starting point, and then kind of do that big reveal to get out to the main overview for your content here. We'll talk about adding in things like your logo, putting in things like a name tag, and then fading into certain areas of your content, bringing in more information on screen. We'll even talk about adding things like video. For the sake of our presentation here, I'm not going to play this video because it's actually kind of quiet, but I'll show you how to put an MP4 in. And we'll also take a look at doing things like our advanced image editing. So how do you bring in different frames and different effects, removing backgrounds from things. We can talk about creating different like smaller zoom areas, fading things in. So we'll take a look at a lot. And of course, the session is really all about what you're hoping to learn and the questions that you have. So, as we're doing this build, please let me know any questions that you have. I'm happy to kind of explore things in the moment and show you specific features that you might be interested in learning more about, or if you're trying to achieve a certain effect. So please don't be shy with the questions. I always like to say that if you have a question, there's probably someone else on this call who would also like to hear the answer. So I will be monitoring that Q&A and our chat window as we're going through our session today. All right. So just for the sake of not having too many camera feeds and bandwidth issues here, I'm going to close out of my content, so bear with me, and then we'll switch over to our screen share. All right, there we go. Now I'm back in action. Okay, so let's go over to our screen share here, and I'm gonna kind of walk you through the process of getting started kind of from beginning to end. So starting over on Prezi.com, and let me move some of my Zoom controls and open up my meeting windows here. All right, so if you see me looking over here, that's because I put my chat and my Q&A on my other monitor so I can keep an eye on it. So I've got both of those open. Okay, so where we're going to start today is over on Prezi.com. And I'll kind of walk you through the process and a few things to know as you're starting to build some content. Now, some of you may be already past the point of building your first presentation, but we always have a mix of some beginners as well as more intermediate or advanced users on these calls. So I want to kind of cover the foundations just so we're kind of all starting from the same point here. Once you land on Prezi.com, this is your main dashboard, and you're basically going to have all of your content that you've created here available for you to open up and edit or present with. But then if you want to start a new presentation, you've got your 3 tabs up on the top here. And one thing that I want to point out is that each one of these 3 tabs is associated with one of the Prezi tools. either Prezi Present, Prezi Video, or Prezi Design. And in Prezi, there are 3 different presentation tools, and each one helps you to create a different type of content. However, there's some overlap in how they can be used together. So that's why today we're learning about using Prezi Video with Prezi Present. Okay, we're kind of combining the 2 there. So where do I go if I want to start that presentation? Well, I can either click into new presentation here, or I can go to new video presentation. Either one is going to work, but basically what you're going to do is get into this template chooser here. And then you've got a couple different ways that you can start a presentation. We're actually going to start from blank today, and I'm just going to show you how to build from scratch. So we'll be using our blank template right here. But I also want to point out that we have an entire category of video templates. So if you don't want to build from scratch, if you want to use something that's a little bit more stylized and already has some design from a graphic designer, the video template category is a great place to start. So here you'll see that these are all already optimized for video, and you can look at the different designs, keeping in mind that all of these are 100% customizable. So if you don't like the colors or the shapes or the textile or the graphics, you can change all of that through the editor. Okay. So because I want to more or less build from scratch today with you, I can either use one of our blank video presentations, or I could use just the blank presentation title here. Either one is going to work. Both are going to have very light formatting, but I'm going to start with this blank one right here. And we'll click use this template, which will pop it open into our editor. Okay. Now, the reason I wanted to start with this particular template, in addition to it being our blank template, if you will, is because even though this is not specifically designated as a video template, what I want to show you is that any Prezi Present template can in fact be turned into a video. And here's what I mean by that. So if I go up to my upper right-hand corner here where it says present, and I can use my drop down, I'm going to see the option where it says record as video. Okay. And here I'm going to see 2 options, either narrate over and add like a voiceover to my presentation, or do I want to actually appear alongside my content? So I'm going to choose this right-hand option because I want to build for video. We're going to hit continue and give it a second here. There we go. So you can see what happens here is that the background in the template goes away. Now this one's not optimized for video, which means I'm going to have content over my face, right? Which is not ideal, but I'm going to show you how to actually build from scratch and work around putting content over your face. So I recommend that when you're wanting to build for video, you use this drop down under the present bar up here and then go to record as video and turn your camera feed on in the editor. Because when you're first starting to build for video, especially if you're going from using something like PowerPoint or any other presentation tool where we tend to use our entire canvas, it's very easy to forget that you're going to be in the background and not know exactly where to position your content. So turning your camera feed on is very helpful in kind of making sure that everything is aligned nicely for where you're going to be as presenter. But if you don't want to watch yourself move around as you're editing, you can also use the freeze camera feature to just take a snapshot. So quick little reminder of where you're going to be, or you can do a quick check for your content and then turn it back off. Okay. So I'm not going to keep my camera feed on for this particular build because I do want to show you how to add in a nice background in case you need to step away from your camera. And also my computer does not love when I have multiple camera feeds going. So we'll be revisiting that feature a couple different times, just kind of check and see how our content looks. But just a reminder, is always going to be up under the present tab for you under record as video. All right, so we're starting here in our blank template, but you can see there's some light formatting already pulled in here. And actually, I don't want to work with any of that. We're going to be building from scratch. So I'm going to select everything on this canvas here, and I'm just using keyboard shortcut of Command A on my Mac, or it's, I believe, Control A on a Windows machine. And I'm just going to delete that on off. So now I've got a blank canvas, blank timeline, nothing going on in this presentation. So the first thing that I'm going to do is in fact put a background into this presentation. So in order to do that, I'm going to come up to my Style tab. And the Style tab, this is basically where you set the overall theme for your presentation. So your color palette, your background, your text style, and then also if you're on a team license, you're going to be able to apply your brand kit and watermark here. Okay, but let's start with background. And once I open up my background sidebar, you'll see where you can pick a color to apply to the background. And you can also upload an image here. So we're going to upload a custom image for Airtravel mobile app here, but you can also use the Unsplash library too. So the Unsplash library is awesome if you are wanting just to use some open stock images, maybe you don't have a custom one. And the first recommendations that you're going to see are all these like really nice abstract backgrounds that you can use that won't detract from the content you're putting on. But if you're looking for a specific theme, you know, in this case, we're looking at travel. So let's just put in travel. You can search by keyword here to try and find an option that fits with your overall presentation theme that you're going for. But we're going to upload our own. So in this case, I'm using a JPEG. It's a really, you notice here the pixel size, really high quality JPEG. And for the backgrounds, you can use either a JPEG or a PNG. And typically I will use a PNG when in doubt, because those tend to maintain the like highest visual quality, especially when you're on a zooming canvas like we're using here in Present. But you can definitely use JPEG, just make sure it's a super high quality. Otherwise it's going to get a little pixelated if you zoom in too far. Okay, so we've got our background in place here. Now, again, this is going to go away when I'm actually presenting. However, as I'm presenting, and I'll show you this in the Prezi video app when we record, as you're presenting your content, you can pop up the background to your presentation at any point, right? So maybe you're waiting for your attendees to join. Maybe you need to step away from your camera for a moment, or you just want to have a presentation that can be either used with camera sometimes or without camera. I'm a big fan of presentations that can kind of go either way. So we've got our background in place here, and I want to just add in some content that's going to form the structure of my presentation. So let's go ahead and add in, first of all, our logo. So I'm going to insert here under media and go to image. And again, that's going to give me my visual integrations here for Unsplash, GIFs by Giphy, stickers by Giphy, and then our icon library as well. But we're using a custom image. So I'm going to go ahead and upload here. Let's open this on up. And it's going to add in the middle of my canvas, but I kind of want it to just be up in the corner here. So it sort of blends in a little bit here with the blue in the background. I'm not super worried about that because I know when I'm actually presenting, I am going to be presenting with my camera feed against the white wall. So the blue will pop nicely against the white wall that I have. However, if you want to change the color of that logo, because maybe it's going to blend in with the background a little bit too much, you can always come up to the fill color here and adjust the fill color if you wanted to make it maybe a little bit more intensely blue. And actually that looks nice. Let's leave that way. Okay. So we've got that pulled in. The next thing that I need to do is get some placeholder content and structure for the actual subject matter I'm going to be sharing with my audience. So I want to talk about Airtravel's new mobile experience and basically introduce that to whoever the audience of this presentation is going to be. So in order to do that, I want to actually showcase the mobile mockup, right? So let's come up to our story blocks. And if you've not used story blocks before, story blocks are a fantastic way to build structure into your presentation when you're building from scratch, because they're pre-made visuals and like pre-formatted text boxes, diagrams, and things like that, that save you a lot of time in putting nice visuals without having to build from scratch. So these can be a huge time saver, as well as some just like really nice visual options that you can add in. So you'll see each category has anywhere from 10 to a few dozen different options for you. So you can kind of scroll through and find something that's going to work for your presentation. Definitely would recommend that you check these out. There's everything from like team org charts, world maps, notes and education mockups. I'm going to actually go to the mockup category. This is one that I personally use most often in my presentations because it's filled with all sorts of things that I do not have the know-how to build from scratch, but some really cool visuals that you can use to make your content look nice and polished. So the one that I'm going to use here is our phone layout. And when this pops into your presentation here, you're going to see that it's basically a selection of grouped items that are customizable. So you see a lot of placeholder click to edit text. In some cases, you're going to find a lot that are simply like photos that you can click on and replace. So it's there to make your life easier with some like pre-done formatting. But you don't have to use every element in a story block if you don't want to. So I only actually want to use a couple pieces of this, not the whole thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the grouped element and I'm going to ungroup it. What that's going to allow me to do is basically break apart the elements of this, this design here and only use the pieces that I want. So I'm going to save our phone layout and I'm going to save one of these circles. And I might also use one of these circles, but I'm not sure. I'm going to just move it off to the side here, save that for later. But everything else, I'm going to go ahead and just delete on off my canvas. So I'm going to be using this and this right here. But I want to get my color scheme updated. And right now, if I go and add in any shapes, it's adding in is this light blue, and then my scheme colors are these. They're not really matching the air Trevall colors. So I want to get my color palette set. So let's go ahead and do that first. I'm going to come up to Style and go over to Colors. And if you've not explored the colors before, there's a couple different things that I want to point out here. Number one, you can create your own custom color palettes and save them here to apply to this presentation or any future builds. You're also going to, let me scroll down to the defaults. You're also going to see default palettes. And these are, just as they might sound, palettes that are default to the program. And they're put together by designers. So we've got a nice amount of contrast and complementary colors. So you can explore here and see if you find one that looks nice for the content you're trying to put together. But if you don't find one that's perfect, that's where we're going to create our custom color palette. And that's what I wanted to do today for Air Trevall. So let's click Create New. And the first thing we're going to do is give this a name. And then you'll see that there are colors 1 through 5. And you can click on the individual thumbnails and adjust each color manually. So you can do either the hex or the RGB codes. You can use the universal color wheel, the global colors, or you can use the eyedrop feature here if you want to pick up a specific color anywhere on your canvas. The other fast and easy way is to either use the background image or a logo. So let's go ahead and click on the background image just to see what happens here. We'll give it a second. There we go. So you can see what the program did is it populated these colors for me based on the background image. So if you're working with a specific background image that has the colors that you want to use, or like the next palette that you want to work with, you can use that to automatically create a really nice cohesive color palette. You can also use a logo. Now I'm going to show you a little trick here. So the logo for Air Trevall is just blue. It only has one color here. And in Air Trevall's overall brand kit, let's pop open this file folder here. You can see that there's actually quite a few different colors that they use in their branding. We've got bright greens, bright blues, some red, and some yellow. So I want to pull in more of those colors to my presentation, but they're not built into the logo. So what I'm going to do here is click on logo, and then I'm going to select one of the images that has those brand colors built into it. So I'm going to use this one right here. Let's open that up. Okay, so you can see, even though it didn't insert the logo anywhere into my presentation, now I've nicely captured all of those brand colors and I have them easily there for me to quickly grab from. So I like all of those colors. I'm going to keep them as is. The last thing I'm going to do here is change my primary text color over to white. And primary text color is just going to be the things like the titles and the subtitles that you see here on the overview of your presentation. So I'm going to save this. Now we've got it applied. And anytime I need to update the color for anything now, I can go to the fill color, whether that's for text box, shapes, etc. And now all of my scheme colors, in other words, the brand colors that we just updated, are here for me to grab from very quickly. All right, so let's start building out some of our additional content here. So what I'm going to do is kind of use this area off to the right-hand side of my canvas to build out my content. And that's, of course, to leave room for myself as a presenter. If you want to have your content off to the left, or you arrange it off to the lower third on the bottom, you can absolutely do all of that. Just be mindful that you want to leave room for yourself and not put anything right over where your face is going to be. Okay, so I'm going to pull in some of my content here. And first things first, let's pull in a couple of the pieces that I know that I'm going to be using here. That one didn't pull quite far enough. We'll grab that in a second. All right, so when you're using our zooming canvas here in Prezi, keep in mind that you can zoom in and out pretty much as far as you want, but you're working with this kind of 16:9 overview. And that's going to be basically the overview of your presentation, the bird's eye view that captures all of your content. But you can put your content anywhere on the canvas that you want, okay, even outside the bounds of this. It's all a matter of like where you place your frames. And we'll talk about that in just a moment here. Okay. But let's go ahead. I'm going to turn my camera on again for a second here. Give it just a moment. Okay, so you can see that my mobile mockup is actually transparent. So I need to add a little bit of content behind that. And then I'm going to be building out with these other two elements here, kind of building out our shape over here. So let's go ahead and add in some content behind our frame. And what I'm going to do here is come up to my shape. We're going to add in, we'll just add in this square. And the blue works just fine, but I want to bring this out to the front. And we're going to put this behind it here. So a couple of things I want to do. Number one, I want to resize this. So it's going to match the sizing here. And notice I'm getting this blue highlight around my mobile mockup. That's the editor letting me know that these two things are now matching in size. Okay, so it's kind of a quick and easy way to match different elements. I'm also going to come up to my fill color here, and I want to just round out the corner radius a little bit. My menu here is going to cover over my corner radius here. So we'll have to pop back and forth and just see when got it matching kind of closely. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that is actually a pretty good match. So that's good. And then we're just going to put our phone right over it. But we need this to be in the front. So let's change the order here. I'm going to right click on it, and then we are going to bring it all the way to the front. And then let's just resize this kind of right over our here, just about like that. Okay, so I want this to be one element instead of three separate. So next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag, and I'm going to select all three of those. And then I'm going to use the grouping icon from the property bar. That's going to now turn this into one element that's a single phone for me rather than three. And it's going to allow me to resize and move things around much more easily. Okay. So we're going to use that kind of as the basis for our content here. And now I'm going to use this circle just behind it, but let's make this a little bit bigger. Move it kind of just behind it here. And notice that the editor is giving me bars that help me kind of center and locate everything. the way I need to. So some alignment bars as I'm moving things around. So we'll get that centered. And here, I do want to point out that this item here that's in the background, it's fill color, is just a circle that has a border applied to it and the opacity way down. So if you're ever looking to create some kind of shape that is just a border, like a box, a circle, a ring, something like that, you can add the border fill color and then change the opacity to it. So that's a nice, easy way to kind of customize some shapes. All right, so this is what I'm going to be building my content around. And I want to keep this in place without accidentally moving and editing things around it. So I'm going to also hold down Shift again. Okay, and we are going to group this entire element. And now that we have it grouped, we're also going to lock it in place. And what the lock feature is going to do is just keep this in its orientation and its position on the canvas so that I can continue to layer on things like our frames, our zoom areas, and all my content over that without having to accidentally move and rearrange any of the multiple elements that I already have built into my presentation. All right. I don't see any questions coming in, so I do just want to remind you, any questions that you have about anything we're looking at, please feel free to put those in. And we will answer those as we go. All right. Let's take a quick look here. Nope, up to date. Okay. All right, so next thing that I want to do is add in the 4 areas of my subject matter that I'm going to be sharing with my audience. So let's go ahead and we'll just add in a text box. And let's change over to our dark blue, and we're going to do a white highlight behind it. And we are going to round out that corner radius all the way. So we've got kind of just a nice rounded pill shape there. All right, so the 4 things that I'm going to be talking about, and we'll center this. So when you're building both for video as well as for non-video presentations, what I generally recommend doing is getting your overview of your presentation and kind of all of those like big picture things that you want to share with your audience, get those set on your canvas, and then apply some zoom areas and work out the smaller details. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this right now. And actually, you know what? Let's change over. I want to make this a little bit more fun. Let's change over to a different. There we go. This kind of fits their branding. Also, copy and paste can be your best friend in Prezi to quickly duplicate items and match things. So you can either use your keyboard shortcuts, or you can also use your right-click context menu. I'm not too worried about getting these all perfectly aligned, but of course you can with your alignment bars if you want to. All right, so we've got our 4 areas of content, and you'll notice here that my content is hanging off the edge just a little bit here. And I do want that to be visible from the overview. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to grab my overview frame. I'm just going to stretch that out just a little bit so it's capturing everything. So keep in mind that your overview here is just your 16:9 screen, basically, of what your audience will be seeing when you're actually going into present mode. Okay, but that's not something that you have to necessarily work within, and you can always adjust the size of it. Let's see, my logo is covered by the phone. Yes, part of the logo is covered by the phone. That would be something that you'd probably want to fine tune a little bit in the actual presentation for an audience. That's a good call out. I'm not too worried about it at the moment because there's a lot of features that I want to show you, but yes, if you take a close look here, part of that logo is indeed covered by the phone. All right, so let's keep going here. I am going to start adding in some more visual elements, some icons and logos here. So first, let's go ahead and come up to our media option here, and let's go over into our icon library. So icon library, you're going to have a lot of different categories for the visuals that you can choose, depending on the overall style of content you're putting together. So my recommendation here is that when you're looking for your icons, number one, pick icons that are from the same family. And also, if you're building for a particular organization or theme, pick icons that are going to fit with that. So for instance, for Air Travel, I probably would not use the blue UI because it just doesn't quite fit with their overall brand style. Same thing with some of the others here. It doesn't quite fit. But if you just want to look across all the categories and see what your options are, you can search in the top search bar, and it will search across all the categories here for you. All right, so we'll start with travel here, see what comes up. And I'm not seeing anything that's quite perfect, so let's try something a little bit more specific. All right, so quite a few options here. So black and white, probably not going to fit with Air Travel. However, Air Travel does have this kind of fun sort of illustration feel to all of their content. So let's go ahead and use this icon. This one will fit nicely. And I'm going to make this kind of small here. And we're just going to sit it right up here by our About Us. Okay. So we'll add in some more icons as we're going here, but let's get started creating our first Zoom area. And by Zoom area, I mean, we want to get in closer into this About Us. It's a first topic that we're going to be sharing with our audience. So right now, if I just go into preview mode, all I see is the overview, right? And there's no like zooming, there's no motion or animation to my presentation right now. When you want to pull into some details with your audience and zoom into About Us, destinations, services, or get started, that's all going to be your frame placement. So once you click frame, this is you framing your content and basically telling the presentation where you want to move to, right? So I'm going to draw this frame, and notice it's also set to a 16:9. And again, that's the size of your computer frame or your computer screen, right? So by default, you're always going to be capturing your computer frame when you're presenting. And that's why your frames or your zoom areas are going to be set to that aspect ratio. Now, you can make a tall and skinny frame. You can make a, very short and wide frame. However, when you are presenting, let's just pop into present mode here. Your presentation always has to capture your computer frame. Okay? So I recommend that when you're actually drawing out your Zoom areas, only adjust from the corners, and that way you're always going to know exactly which piece of your canvas you're going to be capturing when you're presenting. So this will save you some time as you're editing, and just make sure you know what your audience is actually going to be looking at. So once you add in a frame, that's going to add into your timeline in your left-hand sidebar. And the timeline is where you're going to see a play-by-play of your presentation, right? So as I click in here, right, it's going to zoom to that piece of content and get closer into the details. Okay. So let's add in a few more frames here, because we know that we're going to be moving into our talk about destinations next. And all of my frames here, I want to kind of be in the lower third. So that's why I'm positioning the frames around the content, right? I want my destinations, About Us, service, and get started all to appear kind of as a banner on the bottom of my frame as I'm presenting. Okay, so we've got our 4 main frames added in, and this is also going to help me navigate now. So as I want to continue building out some of my content here, this is going to help me move around that that canvas to get all that content in. So let's start off here. I'm going to jump over to destinations. Let's add in some additional content in this area here. And let's go back into our icon library. And because we're talking about destinations, let's search. Maybe let's try a map. Okay, now let's go ahead and add in some images. I want to talk about some of our advanced editing options that we have. So let's come up to media and we're going to add in some image options here. And let's just search vacation. So we'll pick a couple here. Okay, so when you're adding in images to your presentation, anything that you're adding in is going to be visible here from your overview. And you can fade things in and add animations, which we'll talk more about, so that they're not visible from the overview if you don't want them to be. But the other thing that you can do when you're using things like your visuals, to make them just look more cohesive and more intentional, our advanced imaging editor is going to help you apply some different effects to your visuals here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to click on one here, and from the property bar, you're going to see a couple different options here. So you're going to see crop if you want to change the size of your photo. Also remove background if you want to kind of present just a crisp image. Now, this only works if you really have like a nice contrast between the foreground and the background of your image. So this one probably would not work super well for the background removal. But if I go into my advanced image editor here, it's going to pop open a new window and give me access to quite a few different features. So I can apply different filters and tones, right? So whether I want to apply maybe more of a color scheme to it, if I want to change something to black and white, apply a different kind of like filter to it. Lots of fun stuff that you can play around with there. You can also set to different crop features here, adjust things like the brightness, contrast, etc. You can change the focus. And this is really nice if you are trying to kind of just change the sort of the detail on your image. And in fact, let's try a radial here. We'll put that on there. And it gets a little bit softer and blurred towards the edges. You can also apply frames to your content. So for our purposes here with Airtravel, I might use something like our film reel here that works kind of nicely. But you can also do things like apply different overlays. And you can also draw on your content as well if you want to do like some brush strokes with writing. Okay. So once you've got your content the way you like it, you can hit update. And that will apply on the canvas here. It just takes a second. So let's go ahead and we'll do that with both of our photos here. Go ahead and apply a frame. And we'll do just a slight little paper effect here, just for a little bit of texture. All right, let's see, question that came in. Can you show us how the background removal will work? Yeah, absolutely. Let me position these photos and then we will take a look at an example of the image that a background removal would work really nicely with. So I'm going to layer these. I'm going to send this one to the back of our content here, just like that. Let's resize this a little bit. And then I'm also just going to rotate a little bit. Rotation is a nice way to kind of customize your content, make it look just a little bit more intentional here. So let's go up to our media here and come to image. So when I'm looking for images that work well with background removal, I mentioned that you want to have something that is going to have a strong contrast between the foreground and the background. So let's actually take a look at two different examples here. Okay, so these are both images of cameras, right? This obviously this camera here is on a white background. And if I go to remove the background, it's going to have a really easy time telling, okay, there's a camera in the front and we're trying to remove the background from that. So you get some nice, crisp, clean edges. This one, haven't tried it, but I'm guessing it's going to have a little bit of a harder time with it just because there's not a super clear delineation between everything in the photo, but let's see how it does. Yeah, better than I expected. So still some kind of fuzzy edges here on the camera. If we zoom in, you can see that it didn't quite cut out some of it. So it's not perfect, but actually did better than I expected it to. But this works really nicely also for things like profile. So if you're wanting to share, let's just try here, for instance, like something like this, right? So this is, because of the background, it's going to really stick out in the overall presentation, and a great way to make that more cohesive. Let's just go ahead and remove the background, and it's going to give me a really nice kind of like crisp profile picture of the person that I want to share a little bit more about. Okay? So just look for photos that have that really nice contrast between the foreground and the background, and that should work pretty nicely for you. All right, so let me know if that answers your question about the background removal, or if there's something else you're looking to understand about it. And again, please keep the questions coming. I'm happy to answer any of those and take a look at any features that you want to explore more. All right, so if you want to add in something like a video into your presentation, let's go ahead and zoom on in here. Your videos are going to add in just like an image. You're going to upload them and add them into your canvas under the media option here. But there are a couple things to know about adding in videos to your presentation. You're going to see two options here: upload your video or embed a YouTube. When you're planning to present your content for video, in other words, you're going to be present in the video feed and you want to play that video alongside you, just know that you want to stick to the upload video, in other words, the MP4 format. Embedding a YouTube does not work when you're live in the background of your content. That is really only if you are presenting full screen, for instance, like if you're to go into present mode here, okay? Otherwise, if you're planning on getting your camera feed into your video conferencing or recording a video with you in it, just stick to this MP4 option here. So let's open that on up. And depending on your upload speed, as well as the overall size of the video that you are looking to add into your presentation, it might take a minute for it to load in. You can let it just load in the background and continue on your editing. This one is fairly short and super fast, despite my slow computer speeds today. But just know that it might take a second for that, that video to populate. And as a best general practice, about 50 megabytes is where you want to stick for your video upload. Any larger than that, it's going to take a little while to upload, and then also might not be the fastest rendering when you're going to actually present. So that's a general good rule to follow. Okay. Now, as we're adding in these things into our content, they're all going to be visible, as I mentioned, from our overview. So your overview can quickly start to get a little bit busy. So what if I don't want some of this to be visible until I'm actually zooming into my content? Well, in that case, you can add in animations. So let's click on our video. And there's a couple different ways you can add animations. You can either go to your property bar and find your add animation icon there, or you can go up to your more actions menu here in your top toolbar and then find your animation panel there. It will both avenues will take you to the same destination here of your animation sidebar, just two different ways to get there. But let's go ahead and fade this in. Okay. And you can see that that's added into my timeline. So your timeline is one of the most important pieces to utilize as you're building out your presentation, because this is going to show you a step-by-step flow of your content. So if anything is ever out of order, you're going to click and drag and rearrange it here to the correct order that you want it in. So not only useful for while you are actually editing your content, but then also just to know exactly what your audience will see as you're going through your presentation. So let's add in a few animations here. And you can fade things in as a group by multi-selecting. So if you want to fade in two things at once, temporarily group them by multi-selecting and then fade them in all together, or of course, just individually. All right. Now, let's go ahead and just pop back over to our overview and let's go into present mode and just take a look. Now in present mode, you can't turn on your camera feed. You can only do that in the editor or when you're actually recording. So we can't turn it on here, but we'll just take a look at the overall motion of our presentation. Right now we're starting at the overview, and just as I right click through, we're seeing our content automatically zooming towards a video. I turn my sound off here. Jumping over to destinations, fading in our content here, and then fading over to services. Now, what if instead of going directly from topic to topic, so in other words, directly from about us into destinations and then over to services, I may want to go back out to the overview. In other words, pull back out to that bird's eye view in between. In that case, I'm going to come over to my more actions and again, go back to animations. Now I don't have anything selected on my canvas. So in that case, it's only going to show me just our one animation here, which is zoom out. So if I click my zoom out, it's going to add into my overview as an extra step in my timeline or in my path, right? And then I'm going to move that to where I want that to fall here. So in this case, we'll do it right after our video. And I may want to add in another one after destinations. So let's go back and over to animation and zoom out. And we'll click and drag that to where we want it here before we get over to services. Question here. Is it possible to change the path with topics and subtopics? Previously, it was not. Okay, yes. So topics work a little bit differently than just frames. Frames are a little bit easier to control the overall custom path settings. When you're working with topics, it's sort of a bit more of an apply all. So in order to change your path settings for topics to subtopics, you'll find that under your hamburger menu, okay? And that's going to be over here. And you can change the behavior from your overview into your topic, as well as your topic to subtopic path. So do you want to go back out to the overview or the parent topic, or do you want to zoom directly to the next subtopic or content and path? So I would check that out here. We're not covering that in today's specific session, but I will send out some additional info as a recap for you along with the recording. All right. So I think that's the only comment that we need to catch up on. Yes. Okay. All right, cool. So a couple other things that I will show you here as you're building out your content. We've got our main frames set up, but your frames are really how you're going to create kind of a cinematic effect and create more motion of your overall presentation. So in the presentation that I shared at the beginning, we had a custom starting point where we actually started at the beginning of our presentation, zoomed in on our phone itself. So I'm going to show you how to do that because the custom starting points are kind of one of the pieces of, let's say, extra magic that you can build into your Prezi Present for a little bit more of that like wow factor for your audience. So I've got a frame added in over our airplane here, and I added to the end of my timeline. I'm going to drag it up to the beginning. Okay. And let's go ahead and we'll just add in some content here. All right. And maybe we want to fade this in as well. Okay, so right now, if we look at our timeline, we can see that our steps here are overview, zoomed into our mobile app. But we actually want to start here and then zoom back out. So how do we do that? The way we're going to do that is actually to set in a custom starting point. And your custom starting point, in order to do that, you're going to click on the 3 dots over the area that you want your presentation to start here. So if I click here, we're going to set this as our custom starting point. And then we're also going to add in one more zoom out to the overview. Okay, so now if we pop into present mode, let's just start a presentation. We're starting here, fading in our message, and then fading back out to the overview. So you can really create some cool animations and sort of a big reveal effect by using those custom starting points and creative placement of your zoom areas. Okay, so with the few minutes that we have left, let's talk about how you actually get your content once it's fully built out into your video conferencing platform or to record a video. In order to do that, you're going to want to have the Prezi video app for desktop. So you're going to build here in the web platform. But then if I come over to my dashboard here, you're going to find our download center in the lower left-hand corner. Now, usually when you first sign up, you're prompted to download the Prezi apps here, which we have 2. But if you've clicked past that and not downloaded them, the one that you're looking for to go live with your content in video conferencing is the Prezi video app. You can think of this as a sort of remote control that brings your content into your camera feed. So you'll walk through the download here. And I'm just going to put our download center in our chat if anyone needs it. And let's just do a quick little save here of our content. Okay, so let's say my content is fully built out, right? In that case, I am going to open up my Prezi video app. And let's see, I'm going to have to log in here. So when you have to log in, let me pull this over here because it's on my other monitor. You're going to want to make sure you're logged into your account on the web because this is going to sync up with that. So if I click log in here, it's going to sync up, open up the Prezi video app. And let's pop open our window here. Okay, so right now I've got my built-in laptop here, or my built-in camera on my laptop here as my feed. However, you can use an external webcam if you want, or even another virtual camera like eCam or OBS. And you'll find that under your camera settings, either under the top toolbar if you are in a Mac, or if you're in a Windows device, you're going to find your camera settings in the hamburger menu in the upper left-hand corner of your app itself. But once you click into your camera, you're going to see all of your available cameras, and you can select the one that you want to use. So I'm going to stick with my built-in here. It's one I usually use. And then the next step is to get your content into your camera feed here. Now, you'll see here that you've got a big plus sign. This is what we call Quick Create. It allows you to add in some quick visuals, type some quick text onto your camera feed, but to actually get your Prezi Present content in, you want to go to import here. So if you click on your sidebar, we're going to import from the Prezi cloud because that's where we built our content on Prezi. So let's open that up. And now everything that I have available to me on my dashboard for presenting is going to pop up here. I can either type in the search bar or just kind of scroll through and select, but your most recently edited presentation is always going to be this one right up here in the top. So let's go ahead and import this. Okay. And of course, I'm covered up right now because we set a custom starting point. So it's going to automatically load in with your custom starting point. So if that is partway through your presentation, it's going to appear highlighted partway through your presentation with some slides or some frames coming before that. but this is going to set up in the order that you built it on the web. Okay, so from here, I'm going to zoom out. So you can see here, now we're at our overview. We've got our content here, and our first frame that we built in is to zoom in here. Okay, and because of where we placed our frame, we're seeing our content plus ourselves, right? We're going to fade in our video, automatically going to zoom to full size. Zoom into destinations, fade in our other content here, fade back out. Okay, so when you're building for video, the most important thing to think about is your frame placement, because had I placed the frames differently, it's going to change where that content will appear on my camera feed. Okay. So we didn't build out this side of the presentation here today, but we got our frames added in. Okay. So in order to get through my content, all I was doing was just right-clicking, but you can also navigate directly from your viewport here and click onto your viewport, and also pinch and drag with your fingers if you're using trackpad, or use your mouse to scroll in and out and navigate this way through your content too. So lots of different ways you can actually interact to get through your content on a zooming canvas, even on video. All right, so the next question here is, where do you go to get connected? And I'm going to turn off my camera really quick here in Zoom, and I'll show you why here. So down on the bottom, before you're connected, you're going to see present in video call. And if you click here, it's going to give you a tutorial of how to connect based on the platform that you're using. So WebEx, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, GoToMeeting, some of the major ones, but other popular apps here too. You can find a tutorial and then also a step-by-step underneath. But the actual connection is going to happen in your video conferencing platform itself. And you're going to do that by changing over your camera feed. So because we're live on Zoom, I'm not set up to show you the back end controls of Zoom. You won't be able to see them. So I'm going to show you some screenshots here of Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So let me move this off here. And let's see, this is one that we want. Okay. So in Zoom, you're going to go to where you start and stop your camera, okay? And use your up arrow, and then you're going to look for the Prezi camera. The Prezi camera is simply a virtual camera that gets whatever feed is in your Prezi video app into your Prezi, or into your video conferencing center. In Microsoft Teams, being the other major one that I see people working with, you've got two places you're going to look. Number one, up in the upper right-hand corner next to where you start and stop your camera, go into your more actions and then your device settings. And then once you click into device settings, you're going to have a secondary menu that pops up. And then again, you're looking for your video settings. And then you're just going to switch over to the Prezi camera. So again, all video conferencing platforms basically work the same way. It's just a matter of where you access your video settings to get that camera feed in. So then once you have that selected in your video conferencing platform, you're not actually sharing your screen. You're just turning your video on. And then you'll actually have that app open, and that's what you're going to use to navigate through the content to show your audience here. So let me just pull that up here and remove my chat box now that I'm not sharing my screen. It popped back over. So you can see here, it's just interfacing over my camera feed. It's not actually a screen share. So very different from the traditional screen share that we're used to doing when we're presenting with Prezi Present in content only mode, or a traditional slide share presentation. All right, and that brings us fast and furious to the top of our session today. So I am going to hang out for any additional questions here that I can answer for anyone. If you are carrying on with the rest of your day and ready to jump to your next meeting or wrapping up for the day, you will get the recording of the session in about 24 hours or so. It will come out once that link is available. So with that, I hope you found this session useful and kind of getting the basics for building for video and how to create frame placement. And I will hang out for another minute or so to see if any questions come in. Otherwise, thank you for being here, and hopefully you feel excited to try it out for yourself. Are there other training opportunities to learn about the other products? Yes, we do have other training sessions. You can find those on prezi.com/training. There you go, put that in the chat. So same place that you likely registered for this session here. Prezi.com/training is where we host all of our training updates. So you can always check there and see what we have available, but we do have content to learn about Prezi Video as well as Prezi Design. We've got a couple other sessions on Prezi Present. And then we also host a weekly Tuesday session called Prezi Like a Pro Power Sessions, which are 30-minute demos of a very specific feature or skill in Prezi, and then followed by a 15-minute Q&A. So we cover things like sometimes we'll talk about how to customize your content aesthetically in 10 minutes or less, advanced topic editing. We'll also talk sometimes about textiles and using text as a visual component in your presentation. So lots of different topics that we cover there, but it's a different one every Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't make the actual time, sign up anyway. We do send out the recording. All right, I don't see any additional questions coming in. Looks like we're up to date. So with that, I'm just going to say again, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found the session useful and hope to see you on a future training session. So we'll chat soon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.